Guys, welcome back to the putting studio here, and today we're going to address something that I'm sure is on the mind of most of you guys watching when you're going out to select a putter. And you'll have heard enough, especially from us by now, about different styles of putters, and you know, we've got a couple here, one that is face balanced and the Titleist Futura. You've got your Bobby Grace, which is kind of pretty much 80 degrees or so, 75 degrees of toe hang.
So lots by most standards.
Tons of toe hang,
yep.
Pretty much full,
okay.
Sort of full putts of toe hang there. And which one suits, you know, which type of golfer?
Yeah.
Which type of stroke are we going to recommend one over the other? I think most people will probably have heard at some point, you know, the straight back, straight through stroke, go with face balanced. The arcing stroke, go with something with some toe hang. And I think we're here to basically go, that's not always the case.
That's probably the most common conception that people have about how to pick a putter.
Right.
And when you go buy one, I mean, if you're even able to accurately assess how you're stroked, I think that's an issue as well.
Right.
Like if someone thinks they're straight back, straight through, maybe they aren't even to begin with, right?
Well, the reality is there is pretty much no such thing as straight back, straight through.
Yeah.
You know, because of the sort of incline posture that we have, you know, there's very few of us that are out there in the Michelle Wee tabletop position. So in the incline posture with the shaft on an angle, if we are pivoting correctly through our putting stroke, we're going to have some amount of arc to the stroke.
Right.
So it's just varying degrees of arc.
So toe hang, generally speaking, is it related to helping someone control the face during the stroke? Is that basically the point of it?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's trying to match up the rate of rotation of that putter to ultimately match to the player's delivery to create a zero face angle at impact.
Okay. So you want the putters pointing basically straight on the target line at impact.
At your target line. You're on your intended start line, and obviously on here we use a flat putt. So, you know, wherever we set the putter up to, well, as long as we're set up to the target,
as long as you're
straight,
aiming properly.
Because there are times, Matty, when we get people who they just don't know what straight is, and their body doesn't actually allow them to set up, you know, straight to the putter.
Right.
So straight to the target. So we actually have to get that putter to react relative to the start line or the aim line.
Yep.
So if you're standing there as a left-handed putter and you aim everything down the right-hand side, I have to increase the rate of rotation of that putter and get it to actually shut down quicker.
Gotcha.
So I actually have to make that putter more closed at impact in order to pull that putt back online for you, if that's your tendency.
Right.
So
whether or not you're actually, you know, delivering it neutral or not, it's more about taking that person's actual setup and stroke and just making them as consistent as possible.
Yeah, that's it. It's picking the right one for that type of stroke. So, you know, for you guys out there watching, you probably don't know how sort of aggressive or how subtle the arc is in your stroke. We've talked in the past about the Ping putting app. It actually has a component in it which will tell you if you have a slight arc, aggressive arc, or straight back, straight through. So it's kind of gyroscopic sort of nature will tell you what you've got going on.
Right.
Yep. So it's very good for that, but for everyone else, they probably don't know what they've got going on themselves.
Absolutely. So let's get into. We're starting kind of with the baseline of the putter I've been testing for a little while.
You've been using this one and been putting, you know, pretty well with it.
It's been a lot better than I was putting before.
Good.
So I think based on the choices we made, obviously we did some shaft and grip stuff too, but based on the choices we made with the toe hang and the kind of the balance of this putter, seem to be getting the putts online a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I think there's going to be a lot of people who gravitate towards a certain style.
Right.
I probably didn't even ask you about testing anything but a blade that time that we were working on this. I'm sure I didn't ask you about face balance putters either.
No.
So that's kind of, I think, the part where there's a lot of options, and I think everyone is focused on arc versus straight back, straight through. So let's get into kind of why you actually would want to take someone's stroke and choose one or the other.
Right. And, you know, Matt and I, obviously we work closely with this. So, you know, Matt is, I probably know Matt's game as well as I know anyone's game at this point. So there's a certain thing you do with both of these putters that we've never even spoke of, that we'll actually talk to that right in this video today, and it's actually going to talk to why both actually, even though one is face balanced, even though one is pretty close to maximum toe hang, you could actually putt extremely well with both, because you do one subtle thing when you putt with each one. And that alone is pretty surprising, I think, to most people, that you could have one stroke and take complete opposite face balances and actually hit good putts with both. Hit great putts with both, and actually be able to putt with both because of the way we deliver the putter to them. So why don't we start with your one? So back to, for those of you who didn't see the original putter fit we done with Matt, Matt's tendency is to pull your putts a little bit, isn't it? So I'll pull them to the right of the pull to the right a little bit, right? So, guys, when we're working with a putter with toe hang, we're basically slowing down the rate of rotation, because if that weight is dominant to the toe side, that putter is going to open a lot easier, and it's going to close down a lot slower, right? So for you, that's what helps you to not pull your putts as much. So that's what helps you deliver this putter really, really, really well. Most people think the opposite. I was just going to say, I kind of thought it was the opposite. Yeah, most people think a putter with toe hang swings like a door. I hear that all the time. But it's actually the opposite of that. Right. If I release that putter right now, it falls wide open. Because the weight dominance through the axis point of the shaft is very much in favour of the toe. So like a driver where we move the weight towards the toe, if we want to hit a fade, we do the same with the putter. So that's a good analogy for it, because that actually makes it make sense. Right. Because I don't understand until you just said that how the arcing stroke suits more weight in the toe, because I think that everyone does think it does this more, and it actually is the complete opposite. Yeah, so people have diagnosed it as, if you have an arcing stroke, you need a putter with toe hang. Yeah, that's because if you have an arcing stroke, you are increasing the rate of rotation, because you have to. If you're arcing that putter, the putter is falling more open, so that it will generally increase its rotation as it comes through. But we want to control that rate of rotation on the way through. I've heard so many people say, I push a lot of putts, I should get something with more toe hang so that it closes faster, and then go buy that putter. So then they're just screwed at that point. That's interesting, yeah. We just have to bite our tongue, with these things in the putter fits, until we get to the point where the right time is to deliver the message, that everything they've ever thought they knew is probably being kind of, they've probably been sort of misinformed. For a lot of people. The advantage is, at least you can prove it right away with the system. It's not like it's just there's no guesswork involved here. This is physics. This is kind of measurements and on rates of rotation and all the delivery on a kind of 3D swing path. So there's no guesswork involved. Exactly. All right, let's hit a few with the gamer, Matty. Okay. So we've calibrated this guy in. Whenever you're ready, let's hit a couple. Excellent. There's a reason this is the gamer. A little bit of draw spin to that. Yeah, it felt a little bit in that mode. Okay, not bad though. pretty decent, very acceptable numbers across the board. Sort of push-pull ratio, you were going to make it up to 10 feet. You may have made it as much as 12 feet, but you probably would have missed it after that. Gotcha. That's okay. So it was heading right to some degree. Yeah. Just hung it a little open. Yep. I think it was a little more solid overall, but I probably overcompensated for the fact that I pulled the previous one. Yeah, I mean, great roll numbers, Matty. You just left the face open. 1.99 degrees, so 2 degrees open. Other than that, it was okay in the roll perspective. So, what does kind of 2 degrees open mean? It means you would have made the short putts. So it's not an awful putt. Yeah. Because we always say, anything beyond sort of, 8-10 feet, we're not going to make all those. They're nice to make, but you want to convert the putts inside 5-6 feet. Those are the par putts and that type of thing. So even on that putt that wasn't your best, you're still gonna, let's bring that one down to a 5-footer. So there's a 3-footer, you're going to make it. 4, you're going to lip in. 5, we're kind of 50-50.
Speed dependent?
Very speed. And 4 feet's probably speed dependent.
That's really cool how that works.
You're good there. It's good, isn't it?
It's really cool.
Yeah, so we can simulate how the hole is going to accept the golf ball and at what speed.
So for me on days, let's take speed as a constant. Let's say my speed is good on both days.
Yeah.
If I have a day where I'm nervous about how I'm delivering the face,
right,
or I feel like I'm hitting a lot in either direction, I'm trying to control it. Yeah. Those are my worst putting days because I'm not just kind of confident that I will start it on line.
You're not flowing.
So that is something that, again, that's my weakness as a putter. But even this putter has been helping me overall. I still have those days where I feel, I don't control the face very well and I'm too conscious of it, and I miss a bunch of short putts.
Okay. It was a really good stroke.
Yeah, that felt a lot better.
To be honest, that's going to give you some pretty good numbers. I know something on the green may have kicked it to the right just to not go in, but something definitely kicked it because it's went right. Okay, hit one more.
Okay. I think that was. Surprised it missed, to be honest.
No, well, if you see, it's wiggling just about 2 feet out.
Just on this surface.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of a raised part of the green. Good. I mean, it's good. It is good. But, again, so, tell everyone, you've changed. You've actually, since we fit this putter, you've changed to cross-handed.
Yes.
One major thing has changed since you went to cross-handed, and now you're actually leaning the shaft significantly more than you used to. So, if you think of it, if you lead with your on your side on your right hand low, so if you go that way, the idea is that you don't let that lead wrist break down.
Okay.
So
versus this where I could potentially be letting it do this. You
used to have the shaft more neutral. So looking at the delivery here, Matty, I would say there's a good case for this putter no longer really fits you very well.
Interesting.
You actually need something that creates a little bit more lift, which is not going to be the Bobby Gray style like we've always talked about with the radial face and that type of thing. So,
because it's interesting that you say that because I always fool around. I think everyone does. You mess around with your grip all the time.
Yeah.
And even if you did get your putter fit, you might have kind of completely undid what you did basically by switching my hands.
You change the dynamics, don't you? You change the release patterns, to use a Tiger term. But that's not an awful putt by any means.
Okay.
In most people's kind of book, that in actual fact is a pretty good putt.
And so by it not launching up, I'm probably getting away with it because my home club, the greens are very smooth, very consistent.
Yeah.
I'm probably not getting punished for not launching it properly as much. Would you say that's safe to say?
Definitely, absolutely. The better the green surfaces are, the less the kind of lift and forward rotation is at a premium. I'm just going to go to that last putt. Yeah, so let's take a look at that last putt, Matty. So you're basically making it at 12 feet. You may even make it up to 14 feet, depending on speed, like we said.
Right.
That's phenomenal, face control. So it just isn't ideal because we're kind of not launching it all that well. So we're launching that at 0.1 degrees, so basically nothing.
Yep.
We're basically hitting the ball forward with no lift. So let's roll that through and kind of show you what that looks like. Let's roll it back a few frames. So if we watch that green line, we're not really seeing the ball lift there. We're just seeing it just tumble forward a little bit.
Right.
So we're going to call that okay. This is where we talk about different styles of putter and different, obviously, face angles. This is face balanced, but it's also being a mallet. The CG is, there's a lot of weight back in here.
For sure.
The CG is significantly further back on this guy than it is on that one. So where you're struggling to launch that one right now because you've got the shaft leaning forward, that's where this type of putters comes into its own. if you're the normal player who adds a little bit of dynamic loft, this putter's not great for you.
You would want something like this instead.
Most people, to be honest, will pop the ball up in the air. I mean, I've seen people hit this exact putter with 5 degrees of launch.
Really? Okay.
Like literally a bouncing ball.
Yeah.
You know, not very good. But because of your roll conditions, you know, quite unique. You have that shaft leaning 2 degrees forward. By the way, that's PGA's Tour standard.
That's what everyone
which
does.
is good.
Okay.
So
right.
so maybe your stroke maybe it's getting better.
Maybe, yeah.
You know, that's...
I've certainly been putting better. I think it's interesting that now I've made this a bit unsuitable for me at that point.
There's a good chance of
Interesting.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to something completely different,
Yep.
and we're going to see how, obviously that putter is quite good in terms of helping me control the face. I may have pulled them a little, but they still hit the hole at 10 feet, so it helped. Now we're going to something that, by most people's perception, should not help and should be an issue.
Exactly.
And now we'll see how that kind of plays out.
Exactly. Okay, Matty, going to rock over now to the Scotty Futura, face balanced, 35 inches, your usual length.
Yep.
We're going to see what it is that this one does differently. So set yourself into this guy. Okay. Right. So we've hit this putter in the past before, and you've done very well with it.
Mm-hmm. I'm aiming left. Substantially left.
So there, when I mentioned at the start of the video, this is why you putt great with this putter.
Okay.
With the Bobby Grace, you aim it great.
Yeah.
Every time I stand behind you, I can see you're aiming it great. Mm-hmm. Every time I watch you hit putts with this guy, I see you aiming left, but you make everything with it.
Because I end up pulling it a bit.
Right. So you've got the Bobby Grace that you aim great. It has lots of toe weight, so it slows down the rotation. This guy doesn't slow down the rotation because it's always trying to stay square all the time because it's face balanced. It doesn't want to open as much. So the balance of the face, it basically wants to do that. Okay, so which is much less closing. So you do good with this because you offset the putter by aiming left.
Interesting.
Right?
That is the last thing I would have expected.
But that's the variable that works for you.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so
very interesting.
That's your tendency with it.
Huh. So if someone comes in with that situation and you give them that kind of moment of discovery, what do you say to them? Do you say that that's a good path? Because what if they eventually say, okay, I don't want to be the guy that aims left, and he starts straightening it out?
You're going to struggle with the putter.
You have a problem.
That's the reality. We're just dealing in truths. If you said to me, oh, that's cool to know, I'm just going to keep thinking I'm putting it straight because everyone goes in. Or if you go, well, technically I would like to learn to aim better
properly,
and actually get my club face to match the stroke. It kind of, do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of last week's video of can you cure a slice with the driver.
Yeah.
We're using technology to cure something you do with this putter.
Right.
It's not ideal.
Yeah.
From a mechanical standpoint, guys, this isn't a perfect world. Matt, you'll see it. Matt putts incredibly well with this putter, but every time, and I haven't told you up until now how much you aim left with it. But you return it back to square. Your rate of rotation is higher with this one than it is with your Grace.
Really?
Yeah.
So this putter is in fact doing this at a faster rate than...
Well, I'll tell you, no, it's not actually rotating faster. It's actually it's not opening as much.
So it's less of a range.
Yeah. So you will close the face on a face balance putter much easier because it never opens as much.
Okay, so it's just not getting as much this way.
It's not swinging as much.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I will try not to make any compensations and see how...
Literally, you're just going to keep doing what you do.
Yeah, it's funny because I think just when we hit a few putts with it, the only feedback I had for you is I just felt like I was starting it on line better. But clearly the actual reasoning for why that's happening is not something I was conscious of.
That's the little bit in the carpet, to be honest. Okay, let's hit another one.
Okay.
That wasn't too bad. Wasn't that bad, should I say. Yeah, I mean, it's reading that fine.
Right, so it did take off basically online.
Okay, Matty, let's roll one with this guy. Nicely done.
It didn't feel like a great stroke, but as I was saying to you before, it just seemed to end up in the hole more often.
Okay, so you launched it pretty good. Face angle got a little bit shut, but you still managed to keep it on its line. Okay, so you've got a little bit of the left alignment. So there's a couple of things we could actually do here. So we're not calibrating this putter. You can do a couple of things with Quintic. You can calibrate it to square, or you can calibrate it to alignment point.
Right.
We're calibrating right now to alignment point. So we're basically calibrating it to wherever you think square is.
Gotcha.
That to me is more realistic than if we put the laser up against the face and start the putter at square every time.
Right.
Then it's telling you what the face is doing relative to square.
Okay.
I want to know what the face is doing relative to your start alignment point.
Because that's going to help someone actually be aware of how to get the ball rolling where they want it to.
And it's going to help me help you more, because I'll know more of what you need to do in order to get the ball to the hole.
Okay.
But we can, for different players, I'll do it different ways.
Right.
Nothing but net.
Yeah, that felt good too.
Really good. So you can see with this style of putter, interestingly, the dynamics of it are so that you actually aren't leaning the shaft nearly, without consciously doing anything different. You're not leaning the shaft nearly as much forward as you were with the other putter.
Interesting.
Yeah. So whether that's the head sort of working, in acceleration of the shaft itself. We know the shaft. We know the shaft influences obviously dynamic loft. Looking at that there, you're now able to launch the ball a little higher. Well, that's obviously because we're not leaning the shaft
as much. Yep.
Yeah. Face angle was great there. You struck it perfectly in the middle of the face. That was 0.04 closing. So, a millimeter or so in the heel, but nothing. So I mean, that's a pretty functional. It's a pretty functional putt right there. Really, really good.
Let me ask you this question that's a little bit probably more than most people need to worry about.
Right.
We've talked about a driver with a further back center of gravity being good to try to hit more of a draw as it helps the club rotate more. Is that the case with a putter?
Yeah, you can't escape. You can't escape these laws of physics.
Right.
When you have the CG moving front and back and that type of thing, you just can't escape these. Now, what I would say though is, with a slow moving stroke and a short stroke of a putt, the face orientation relative to the axis of the shaft is the more important force that we're dealing with. So you're definitely not going to see as much influence from the CG's roll being away from the face or not.
So not necessarily something someone should worry about if they're trying to influence the rotation of the face, but a mallet is good for them. Don't necessarily need to say, well, I can't use a mallet.
Yeah. We would see really subtle movements in the face orientation relative to the CG point being further back.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what would you say about, how would you round this off to saying how this putter was able to give me, essentially just as good of a result, aside from the alignment differences? I know we talked about those.
Well, let's see. So how many putts did we hit there with this guy?
I think I hit 3.
So the putter was, there's perfect. So 3 and 3. So there's the last 3 putts. So the putter slowed down in rotation. Look at the twist and impact with the Futura. That rounds us into another video of
for sure,
the use of MOI, the higher MOI on putters. So you've got a little bit more, actually probably not more head weight. You've probably just got better use of the head weight.
Because it feels lighter to me.
Does it? Yeah, than the Bobby Grace.
Yep.
But stretching it obviously back and kind of in a square form, obviously everyone remembers the Callaway FTI and the Nike, the
Sumo
Sumo Square.
Sumo, right? Yeah.
So it's going for square to increase MOI. this is in the same form. We're bringing the mass out to the back corners. It's going to be more resistant to twisting on a slight off-center strike. So,
right.
We're seeing exactly that. We're seeing the rate of rotation slow down, and if we look at those putts, you've gained better face control on these putts than you had on the other putter.
Yeah,
and you putted well with the other one, but that one is slightly more consistent for you.
And the complete opposite of what I probably would have thought was correct. So completely different face or toe hang styles.
Yeah.
Same-ish stroke.
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit different based on the putter, but really the opposite of what I think most people are going to be expecting. One thing,
let's just do this, because I think some people will be curious as to what would happen if
I aim straight.
Let's aim straight.
Okay.
So let's go. Let's set up to this one. So I'll kind of give you a little head start. Okay, so if I go, there is square.
I feel like I'm aiming away right.
Okay, Matty, now put your normal stroke on that one. And you're not faking that for any kind of camera?
No, I honestly just tried to putt it. No, I tried to putt it. Honestly, what I did once you did it is I just didn't look up again and just made a stroke. So to me, the stroke felt like decent, and I look up and are those inches? It's whatever, it's a cup and a half right.
Yeah.
So
those are in inches, yeah. So that's about, it's ended up about 5 inches right of center.
Right. So I'm completely unaware of how much I was aiming left.
So that's the variables that go into, and obviously during a session, we're spending significant time working on all these sorts of things, discussing and discovering the tendencies of players, and ultimately, if I can give them a putter that gets them to aim more on their target line and keep the putter face at the target line, that's the win.
Yep.
If you find it hard to aim at the target, some people really struggle with that. I know the guys out at Ping tested their tour staff, said very few of them actually aimed at the target. Most of them actually aimed off target and then either closed or kept the putter open relative to. So as much as we think we're aiming square, we're aiming generally. So if we have a straight putt, subconsciously we're aiming at the point that we need to in order to do the right thing with the face to make the ball go in the hole. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it's all based on what your brain is expecting you to do.
That's it. We have patterns. A lot of the time we're not even recognizing these patterns. If we're pull putters, for you're a pull putter, so you tend to aim left with this style putter to offset that amount. Interesting. So
it's no different than making a full swing where you aim kind of based on where you think the ball is going to curve.
That's right. Definitely. That's exactly what it is.
Okay. Well, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that the putter fitting process is probably a lot more fluid than people expect.
Yeah.
Especially for me, when we did fit my other putter, made some minor changes to my stroke, and we've experimented with different stuff, and just seeing a wide range of different ways to go about it.
If we were to go through this process, I'd be working on you with. I'd maybe try and get you, standing more over the putt can often give you a different perspective. So the more you stand up, the more you tend to look for as a left-handed putter down the left-hand side. Okay. The more you go over, you actually tend to look more to the right-hand side. So I may try and change your influence of perspective, and go. I might go, here's a 33-inch putter, Matty. Get yourself more over it, and that very well may point the putter more online. I may bring the toe of the putter up a little bit, maybe change the lie angle a little bit, tilt the loft a little bit to the right. Again, changing the perspective of where that putter is. There's so many variables, that we're thinking of, and everyone's working together. It's that Rubik's cube. It's thinking of all sides of the putter. So when we change one thing, we're not changing that one thing. On all sides, we're changing other things at the same time. So, we're very conscious of doing that.
You got to come in with an extremely open mind when it comes to a putter fit, clearly. Like the most you can.
Do you know what the great thing with putter fits, and one of the reasons I love them so much, is there's almost not enough knowledge out there for people to come in with any preconceived notions as to what's going to happen.
They're a little more open versus the rest?
They just kind of go, I don't know what's about to happen here. Go for it. Whereas in the Bay, people, you know, go, well, you know, I've heard this, you know, launch is good and that launch is good, and what about that head and that. It sometimes can be a little more difficult when people have ideas of where it's going to go. The putter fit is generally, you know, people are very, you know, accepting of where you think they need to go.
Interesting.
Especially when they start seeing the ball going in the hole.
I was going to say, I mean, that when you gave me this and I first said to you, like, no thank you, basically, like, I don't want to putt with that, and then the ball starts going to the hole, I would go and play a few rounds of golf with this happily.
It's amazing how much better looking it is now that the ball's gone in the hole.
It's all, beauty is relative, as they say, right?
Absolutely. In the eye of the beholder.
Eye of the beholder. Yeah, cool stuff.
Good. Excellent. Guys, lots to take in here. I fully kind of, I know we kind of, we sometimes go fairly deep with these things, and we try not to go too deep, but still give you the detail that's going to add the value to help you guys understand truly what it is that we're doing here. I know it's difficult to sometimes, maybe it's worth watching certain parts a couple of times, rewind it back, listen to it again, and you know, hopefully we're making sense. The comments obviously below is the key. Ask us. You know, ask us what some of it means, and we're happy to chime in and kind of add some more detail or context where needed.
Awesome. And more to come on the putters very soon?
Well, we've got more coming all the time. We've got a little mini series coming. We're building on all aspects of the putter, from length and grip and, you know, mallet and blade and face balance and all that sort of stuff. So
awesome.
Lots to come. Guys, I really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll see you again soon.